Love isn't easy. Finding somebody isn't easy. But we always need to focus on finding a partner and not a solution. We need to aim to find ourselves before we find anybody else. Other people might help, and assist you along your way in your journey, but true growth occurs within. It's what happens on the inside that matters more, because that'll have more of an effect on the outside. Because we cannot rely on external factors for happiness. We just can't, because if they disappear or they leave, well, then so does our happiness. There's a lot of people, I'm not saying everybody, absolutely not everybody, but a lot of people, when they look for partners, they aren't actually looking for a partner. They are looking for a solution, or looking to fill a gap within themselves that they cannot achieve right now. So they go and look for external factors to help with that. As much as I believe it's okay to help, and to fill certain things, because, maybe you've been working really hard. So what do you want? You want some rest. So you can just take some time off work, you can go on holiday, you can go on a trip, you can go see your friends. That's fine, that's normal. But if you're insecure within yourself and you post things online or you do things in order to gain validation, well, you're just trying to fill a void. But the only way that gap will ever be filled is if you fill it, because other people will never be able to do it. So it's never okay to solely rely on external factors to fill that void. If we take this analogy, for example, let's say we've got a cup, okay? And this cup is our mind. If I piss in it and then I add sugar to it, the point still stands that that cup is still full of piss, no matter how much sugar I put in that cup, right? So if the cup is our mind, the piss is the things we're dealing with right now, and the sugar are the niceties that we're trying to mask all those things with, well, the bad things are still there, our emotions are still there, our problems don't leave. They might look a little bit sweeter now, but in reality they're not. The goal is to be able to filter that liquid out into clear water. And then whatever you choose to add to that clear water, aka like a clear mind, well, that's up to you. It seems to be that the healthiest relationships that, you see, or I personally know of, tends to be between people who are sure of themselves. They seem content within themselves. They are happy to be alone. They are more than capable to look after themselves mentally, and they don't require the other person. So if the relationship was to come to an end, they could still go about their day. And I'm not saying they wouldn't be sad, they don't care about each other. Of course they would. I'd imagine they'd be devastated, because they are great relationships. But the point I'm trying to make is that they are fine being alone. They are content with doing things on their own, with their friends, with their family. They don't need a partner. So the whole cliche, love yourself first, really does play a big part. And before you think, well, I do love myself, I'm content with myself, I'm confident with myself, that's good. I'm happy for you, and I'm glad that it's the case. However, just because you love yourself, does that mean you have the right qualities of a partner? Because a lot of people complain saying, well, I do love myself, I'm happy with myself, all this, that and the other, but then they can't still find a partner. Well, then it might not be the mental state that's the problem. It might be other things. Maybe problem isn't the most correct word here, but maybe your shortcomings are elsewhere. Because do you look after yourself physically? Do you have high quality friends? Do you have a good game? Are you romantic? Can you rizz them up? Do you have hobbies? Do you have a good, stable income? All of those things you need to ask yourself, because those things are also important. I would argue that the mental state, aka being okay with yourself, being okay being alone, loving yourself, is the number one thing, because when that is taken care of, everything else will just take care of itself. Trust me, it becomes a byproduct. And I'm not saying the things I listed are absolute make or break, or there's some sort of list that you have to, adhere to and tick to in order to find a partner, because that's not the case. However, whether we like it or not, people look at these things. People will look and ask themselves these things. So they are important. I'm not going to lie. They're important to me too. Out of all those things that I said, the only thing I might not really be bothered about is the income part, because I'd be happy to be the sole provider in their relationship. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But everything else, well, I'd want them to have. So every time I say, love yourself, I don't just mean up here. Not in obviously the egoistic way and, and just being full of yourself. No, obviously when you're just confident within yourself, you know where you're going, you know what you want. Things like that. You've heard it a million times before. I also mean in all the other factors surrounding it. And I think once those things are taken care of, once those things are fine and in order, or at the very least on the way to being there, because you don't have to have all those things right now, but if you show initiative and you show that you're working on them, then in my eyes that's more than enough, because you might not have something that someone is looking for, such as a incredible physique or earning 10 million a year. But if you're working towards your own goals, and if they align, well, trust me, that's going to do a lot of good. And of course, we can't forget how certain people put a lot of emphasis on relationships and how I believe they tend to be romanticized a little bit more than they should as well, because it's nice, right? Thinking about all those lovely things, all those memories you're gonna make, all those cute little moments. They're good, they are good, they are nice, and it's nice to remember them. But reality is a little different, because there are gonna be good days, there are gonna be bad days. There are going to be days where you have a lot of fun, and there are gonna be days where you're gonna be bored shitless. There are going to be days where you're gonna be passionate, and you have a lot of fun. And there are also going to be days where things are just tedious. You have to take care of things you don't want to. You have to talk about the things you don't talk about. And during all of those times, you must choose each other. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And I'm not saying that love and relationships are transactional, but absolutely not. However, relationships do require effort from both sides. First of all, to each other. And second of all, which I believe is more importantly, towards themselves. Because being the best version you can be will essentially ensure the success of your relationships. Because the reason why I say that is because when you know exactly who you are, when you know exactly what you want, and exactly where you're going, and you are actually showing results, and you're showing that you're working towards all of that, then it's game over. You're pretty much already there. And another reason why looking after yourself is more important is because when you don't let yourself go, you actually do keep up with your gym routine. You actually keep up seeing your friends. You actually carry on with your hobbies. Your partner will like you a lot more and respect you a lot more, and will actually be willing to stay with you significantly more than if you just let yourself go and constantly just adhere to them, making your entire life and presence and personality about them, because that will get boring pretty quickly to that person. So stay yourself, continue to love yourself, and never stop working on who you are. Obviously, between all the good and the bad, there are going to be compromises and there are going to be slight changes. That's normal, inevitable, it happens. Because when I say continue to be working on yourself, don't change who you are, being realistic here, I just don't mean do a complete 180 flip and become a completely different person. Because, if I'm single and on Saturday night, I jump on my computer and play some games with the lads, well, I might change that, right? I might change that to spending a Saturday with my girlfriend. And then Sunday night, that's what I dedicate to my games. I haven't drastically changed things around. I'm still doing what I enjoy. I've just slightly adapted. Things like that, those are inevitable. And things like that should come from both sides. Because then that way you both adapt to each other, you both learn what you like, and you're both, well, going to be a lot more compatible than you realise if you're able to just make such a small adjustment like that. I love this quote from Mark Manson, and it says, "The person you marry is the person you fight with." And I don't believe he means quite literally fight with, scream at each other or fight with each other. No, it just means that you're willing to go through the good and the bad. You're willing to change. You're willing to adapt. You're willing to do things for the other person. Because disagreements and things not going right, well, it's bound to happen. And it's up to us how we get through all of that. We're on a roll with these quotes today. Another one by Mark Manson again, actually. "The house you buy is the house you repair." And as the message suggests, you should never look for answers in other people. Because if something breaks in your home, you don't just sell the house and buy a new one, do you? You repair it. You look at it and think, okay, what can I do to fix this? And exactly the same thing happens with relationships. Obviously, certain things cannot be fixed. And sometimes it's also not your responsibility to fix them. You can obviously help and assist, but there's only so much you can do as an individual. And there's also so much you should do as an individual before it starts to break you as well. Because your partner should lift you up. They should be your best friend. They should be able to do things with you, not be your personal therapist or your parent. That's not what you want out of a partner. You want support, understanding, empathy, all those different things. But you don't want them to be your therapist. It's a search. Make your search strict. Don't just accept anything and anybody, because not everything and anybody will be compatible with you. And it certainly isn't going to be the idea of your preferable partner. And the reason why I say preferable is because perfect doesn't exist. However, preferable and compatible do. And those are the things you aim for. Continue to work on yourself. Continue to do the things you're doing. Never drop your hobbies and interests. You love them first for a reason, right? Be content on your own. Be able to do things alone. So if somebody leaves, well, go around with that. Be sure of what you want, because then your search will be a lot easier. And of course, have the mentality of, if they come, they come. If they don't, they don't. So don't force things. Just let things happen and see what happens. Because you never know what or who is waiting for you around the corner.